Alright everyone, I am elated to report that a great evil has finally been defeated. Elizabeth Warren is out. No more Warren 2020. She was humiliated in her home state. She was not given a choice. At the end of the day, she had no option but to drop out. Thank goodness. Good riddance to a wedge issue campaign. Now you're seeing Biden and Bernie Sanders. Immediately last night and this morning, sparring on Twitter heavily. I expect them to pick up the attacks on one another, because what's going to happen now? We have to see where Warren's fans go. Bloomberg dropped and endorsed Biden. That gives him a huge boost. Warren and Bloomberg were about even. My inclination is to believe that even if a majority of Warren fans, as I suspect will be the case, go for Bernie Sanders because of them being far left, my feeling is that it won't be enough. My feeling is that while that boosts him, Biden gets a small minority of those voters and was already so far ahead. He had South Carolina. He got the tailwind. He was already arguably the front runner at that point, because all of that support that he had lost because people thought that he had fucking croaked politically came rushing back the second that it was clear he could pull off a major win. Super Tuesday comes along. He gets 9 of the states to Bernie's 4. That's a pretty sheer difference, and he got him by decent margins. He is now well ahead in the delegate count. It's still close enough. It is still technically a tie, according to Bernie Sanders fans. Actually, some of them still, for some reason, think that Bernie Sanders is the front runner. On what planet are you living on, dude? Stop cherry-picking polls. You sound like fucking Karl Rove at Fox News on election night 2012. Oh, I remember that. It was so great. Oh, yeah, I had voted for Ron Paul. I wasn't happy about Obama being president, but I'm not going to vote for Romney because who cares? But watching Karl Rove with his stupid, unskewed polls melt down live on Fox, he walked off set and went backstage, and they had to follow him with a camera so that he could ramble at the people there that were compiling the numbers. It was like the greatest thing ever. That was great. Election night's always great because, half the country will inevitably be salty. And so you got to tease that F. Even if Trump were to lose, I'd tease the Trump fans too. Trust me, I would. But Elizabeth Warren being out, I think, is really great for the country because Warren, she tried so hard to rebrand herself. Here's what happened. In the wake of 2016, she almost immediately, and technically before this, and I said, look ahead to the future and you're going to see Warren run. She started branding herself as the missing link between the progressives and the moderates. Now, she never was, of course. She's technically a right-winger in some respects. It wasn't that long ago she was a Republican. She's been a phony her entire life. She's lied about her ethnicity, the situation of her marriage, the situation of getting pregnant, supposedly being fired from her job. She's lied about where her fundraising comes from in multiple ways. She's lied and called herself grassroots, and she also lies about her ideology. She literally flip a coin on any issue, and you can put together an Elizabeth Warren platform. She could do this. She should have just done that. She should have just trusted fate and said, well, I'm going to be an occultist now because, this dude with this mimetic book said so. I'm just literally going to flip coins on the issues, and then I'm going to amalgamate what I believe in. She probably would have done better. It's so funny seeing so many salty people, though, saying, well, if she was a man, she would have run away with it. No, if she were a man, she would have gotten called out for what she is, a goddamn snake oil charlatan. Because the media wouldn't have handled her with kid gloves, afraid of being called sexist if they questioned her by all of her fans, who they want money from in clickbait terms. They love the Warren fans, because these people are on the left too, and Warren is just a standard liberal, essentially. Just a pan-neoliberal. That's all she is. She grifted Bernie Sanders' platform, took away the term socialist, and sold it to people. And nobody was buying. Good riddance. Thank the lucky stars she's gone. But then again, when you come in a distant third in your home state, barely beating out Michael Bloomberg of all people, fucking the writing was on the wall. She should have dropped out immediately. She shouldn't have even waited. But here's the thing. I have no doubt that she's been actively talking to both campaigns. She'll probably wait until after this coming Tuesday when you get 6 more states deciding. If somebody is running away with it, she will probably endorse them. Look for her to endorse whoever's out in front. I think her ideological inclination is Sanders. To be entirely honest, I think ideologically speaking, her inclination is to back him, simply because it'll look terrible if she doesn't. But if she gets the sense that Biden is fairly obviously going to win it, at least come into the convention with enough so that he's ahead, she'll endorse him because she wants to endorse the person who's the nominee. I don't even think that she expects them to win the presidency, but being part of a campaign that is at least credible, because it actually, ends up in the general election, is better than being part of one that gets defeated before that in the primaries. So let's say she endorses Biden and Biden loses. Well, you're no longer visible in the general election. Well, that's lucrative, and Warren loves money. Why do you think she kept fundraising after coming in third in her own home state for 24 hours? How many desperate Warren fans do you think decided to give her one last little check to see if they could reinvigorate the campaign? By the way, that should be against, come on. At that point, there should be a law against obviously non-viable people continuing to fundraise. Like the fact that Tulsi Gabbard is still grabbing up people's money is disgraceful at this point. I have no respect for her left whatsoever. Surfing Mama needs to leave the race. There's no point to her being in. Although technically Tulsi Gabbard's now in third place in the Dem field. It's great. I guess she's just staying there. She's like, well, I'm female and I'm not in my 70s and I'm not, I'm at least not part of the massively rich crowd like these other jerks. So, I'll just stay in. I guess she's having a good time. It must be paying the bills, so to speak, because she's still there. I can't imagine the kind of person left that would still donate to the Gabbard camp. Maybe someone trolling, I guess. Haha, I'm going to try to keep her in, so hopefully she'll go to the debates. By the way, I think they changed the debate rules to keep her out. Yeah, they don't want her on the stage pestering these other two. They don't want her to go after Bernie and Biden. They're probably afraid she'll go after Joe Biden and knock him down a peg. To tell the honest truth, that's probably what they're worried about at this point. Because she wants attention. If you're not going to win, at least get a lot of attention. Then you can win thereafter when you do a book deal about your presidential run. 101 zany jokes I heard on the campaign trail about Joe Biden's dementia. That'd be something she'd probably write. Thank goodness Warren is gone. Oh, I'm so happy because, up until literally a couple days ago, up until literally the day after Super Tuesday, I kept getting beef from Warren fans. Like on the Twitter echo chamber, they are the most vicious of all crowds of people. Which is, again, why I expect that they'll find more in common with the Bernie bros. Absolutely vicious. And also delusional. Like, they still thought she could win. Oh, it's still going to be Warren out of nowhere. It's like, okay, in the first 4 states, she came in third in one of them and failed to even place in the rest. How is she viable? How on earth would she possibly be able to compile a delegate total like that when she wasn't as well favored to win anything on Super Tuesday? All these people had to do is look at the fucking polls. But if you pointed this out to them, they called you a sexist. Oh, you just hate strong, empowered women. Oh, you're a Trump bot. Oh, the Russian troll detected. Come on, dude. Bunch of salty goofballs. I had a great time. The only bad part about this is now the Warren fans will disappear into these other two camps, or I suspect some of them will stay home and say fuck it at this point. They're going to say 2 geriatric old rich dudes who have been in politics since the 70s? Nah, I'm not fucking voting for either of them. Some of them will vote for Trump out of spite. I fucking guarantee you that some of these people will be salty enough to do that. I think most of them, though, at the end of the day, it's just like people that say, well, if this candidate wins, I'm moving to Australia. And it's always Australia, Canada, or some other rich English-speaking first world nation, by the way. They never say they're moving to Malawi. I wonder why. I'm going to move to Canada. I'm going to move to the United Kingdom. I'm going to become a New Zealander and be a sheep farmer. They always say that, and they never do it. The list of people that have actually followed through on their threat to leave the country is pretty small. And ultimately, at the end of the day, when they're there in the silence of the ballot box, 99% of them will back their party's nominee because they're partisans, or at least ideologically informed. If that's the case, I suspect whether it's Biden or Bernie, at the end of the day, most of the Warren fans will buckle down and vote for them. But you need basically all of them to vote for them, because Trump's not going to have that problem. There are no alienated Republicans. His in-party approval is in the I think the low 90s. His in-party approval is the highest since Ronald Reagan, at least on a bad day, and arguably the highest that you've ever seen for a candidate. He's got the incumbent advantage, a reasonably good economy going still at the moment, and his opponents have ripped each other apart. That's why his approval is in a lull right now. It's still 45%. Well, hell, he struggled to get up to that for 2 years. So, I mean, come on, dude. It's going to rise, too. I have a feeling Trump's approval will rise. COVID response aside, because people are blaming one another in the most hideous partisan fashion at this point on that. I can't see any path to victory for Bernie Sanders if he's nominated. No path to victory for him, and almost none for Biden. And the thing, Biden's got dementia. Fairly obviously, all the leftists admit it too. This is their main talking point against him. Oh my God, you're going to put demented Biden up against Trump. He's going to get stomped. I agree, by the way. Bernie bros are very astute when they notice this. He's the better candidate, at least strategically speaking. You can think all day, by the way. Let me tell the Warren and Bernie fans something. And the Biden fans don't have this problem because they're just basically like, oh, hold your nose and vote for him anyway. They're not enthusiastic at all. At the end of the day, you can think that a person is a good candidate. Like I would have loved Rand Paul to have been the nominee, but he wasn't. And he never rose into viability within the GOP field. It was impossible for him to ever get nominated. And had he been nominated, then of course he would have been viable. Sometimes you get a candidacy, you think it's really good, but they make it to the general election and collapse. It's just the way that it is. I mean, Walter Mondale wasn't a terribly horrible, vicious creep or anything. He was maybe a little bit less charismatic than Ronald Reagan, but at the end of the day, he didn't really have a chance. Circumstance just prevented it. I'm saying that I believe circumstances are probably going to prevent the Dems from winning. I think Trump will probably be reelected to the presidency, and it's funny, the number of people that agree with me is slowly rising. Because as little as a couple of months ago, whenever I discussed this with people, they were all black-pilled and demoralized. Well, now they're looking at the stars lining up and they're thinking, oh, well, so I guess Styx didn't lose his mojo. That's about all. Peace out.